on page 22, problem number 1. While you're working it out, I'm going to just go ahead and work it out myself. So I'm going to bring down the 2 plus, and then I'll distribute the 3. So that's going to be 3 plus 15v is greater than negative 85. Okay, after that, I'm going to combine the like terms together. 2 plus 3 will give me 5. Okay, then I'm going to isolate v, so I'm going to subtract 5. Okay, divide by v, and that's going to give me negative 6. And this should not be an equal sign. All right, so we got v is greater than negative 6. So after you do that, then what you're going to do to put it in set builder notation, you'll just make a bar, you repeat the variable again, and then you use the set brackets. Okay, so that's called set builder notation. So for a test, I'll ask you to write your answer in set builder. Now I'm going to read it to you so you'll know how to actually say this. So if I were to ask you, like, what is the answer in set builder, you would read it as, and I'll write down the words and erase them. You would read it as v such that, that's how you read the bar. V is greater than negative 6. Okay, so that's how you would actually read it. So the bar is just read as such that. Okay, so then you would graph it. So you would go where negative 6 is on the graph, you put an open circle, all the numbers greater than negative 6 are pointing to the right. So if you recall from last year, if it's just a greater than symbol or less than symbol, use an open circle. And if it has the equal sign under it, which means you are including the number, then it is a closed circle. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and do number 2. I'm going to distribute this and get 42 minus 30k is less than 132. Okay, I'm going to subtract 42 and get 90. Now here I'm going to, now the coefficient is negative. So if you recall, if you divide by a negative, who remembers what to do? Yes, you flip the sign. So now I'm going to write as k is greater than negative 3. Okay, so we'll put it in set builder notation, put our bar, write the variable again, and put the set brackets. Okay. Now, you only flip the sign if your coefficient is negative. That means if you multiply or divide by a negative. So you might want to make a little note of that. Okay, let's do number 3. I'm going to bring down the negative 7v. I'm going to distribute the negative 7 and get minus 35. And then a negative times a negative here will give me a plus 42v is greater than or equal to 1 minus v. All right. It changed to a plus because I had a negative times a negative. So then I'm going to combine this term together with this term, all my v's together. That's going to give me a total of 35v minus 35 is greater than or equal to 1 minus v. Okay. I'll add 35 to both sides. So I'm going to have 35v is greater than or equal to 36. And then I'll add my v. Now you could have also started with the variables first. It doesn't matter. So once you divide by the 36, you'll end up with v is greater than or equal to 1. Put that in set builder notation. Okay, and you're done. Now we're going to go over two other examples where, just like with equations, you can have an infinitely many solutions type of problem. So let's do that. That's question number 4. So let's take a look. So in question number 4, I bring down the -8 minus 5r less than -1 minus 5r. So when I try to get all my r's to one side, you're going to notice that they're going to cancel out on both sides. And then I just end up with -8 is less than -1. That is a true statement. Okay, that's true. -8, so I'm going to put true. Okay, that is true. -8 is less than -1, which means all real numbers. So if you come out with a true statement like that, when you're comparing the two numbers at the end, then this is the way you would write your answer. You'll say r such that r is an element of all real numbers. Okay, that's how we write it. So that little curvy e, you say that element of. So r such that r is an element of all real numbers. So how would you actually graph that? It's the entire number line, because we're saying it's all the numbers, all real numbers. Okay, now we did not graph number 3, so let's go back to that. This should be a closed dot and shade it to the right. Okay, so this is how you would graph all real numbers. You just shade the entire number line, even the arrows at the end. One where you will have a no solution, that's number 6. So you can see the difference. So in number 6, I'm going to bring down 35 minus 7n. Okay, it's greater than 35 minus 7n, is that right? So now when the variables cancel out this time, I end up with 35 is greater than 35. Okay, that's not true. Now, if it had an equal sign under it and it says greater or equal, it would have been true. But by it saying 35 is greater than 35, you simply write no solution. You don't need to put it in set builder notation. That's it. Okay, that is not a true statement. 35 is equal to itself, but not greater than itself. Okay. All right, so let's move on to the next page. We don't need to do number 5. Okay, I'm going to have you change something here where it says justify the steps. We're going to use problem number 7. So instead of 11, let's change this to 7. So we're going to actually work out the problem and then tell what steps we use, justifying your steps. Okay, we've done this several times already. So I'm going to have -160 is less than 20p minus 20. So for second step, you're going to say distributive property. Next step will be to get all my constants to one side. So I'm going to add 20 to both sides. So that's going to give me -140 is less than 20p. So I've just used the addition property of inequality, because these are inequalities, they're not equalities. Okay. All right, so that is the addition property of inequality. Okay, then we're going to divide both sides by 20. So that's going to be the division property of inequality. And when I actually divide and get -7, what property is that? Substitution. Okay. Now recall, you really should have your variable on the left at all times. So we're going to reverse this because we wanted to say P is something in the -7, not -7 is less than P. So when you have to flip it to the other side, what do you think you're going to do with the inequality symbol? You're going to flip the sign and then put it in set builder notation. Okay. So technically, by us moving from one side to the other, that what tells you can flip-flop what's on each side is the symmetric property. Okay. Just FYI. All right, any questions on that? Okay. All right, so let me go back to what we're going to be doing next. So we just finished what we're going to do for notes for 22 and 23. Okay, so now we'll start the math workshop, and you're going to be going on to your math space. You're going to be looking for these 3 tasks. Okay, so you're going to be looking for 2-7 math workshop inequalities. Task 2 will be equation. Task 3, literal equations. Now, I do say up here, guys, even though it says when you log into math space, you look for the task below, you will need to show the work online. The steps should be online. I will still encourage you to use your spiral notebooks as well. Okay, because then you can just type it in very quickly instead of trying to figure it out as you do it. Okay, actually, sometimes it goes a lot faster if you already have it worked out. Okay, and then you'll submit it. And then obviously when you're done, you're going to turn in this paper. All right, any questions? Okay.